1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All are.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 58 of Star Wars Reactions. We have an awesome show for you today. We are going to have some fun, and we are going to, to quote Huey Lewis, we're going back in time. Oh, we are. We are going back in time. So let's get this going. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me, he is the Zeb to my Ezra, the David Motters. David, my brother, how's it going?
Good, buddy. Just ready to react, and we're got some vintage reactions here to share with our listeners.
That's right. This episode, we are kicking off a new series of reviews that we're going to be doing. We're going to try to do one a month, assuming that there's not a new show out that we're needing to review back to back. But we're calling these our vintage reactions. And we're actually going to go back and review episodes of the old Lucasfilm animations, Droids, Ewoks, the micro series Clone Wars. We're going to do all of that. It's going to be a blast, and I'm looking forward to it because, to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen any of these episodes. I did not watch them growing up. I did not have access to them in my teenage years, and even when I was older, I just never really cared to watch them. And then they added them on Disney Plus. I'm like, you know what? Let's watch them. So I figured if I'm going to watch them, let's review them. So here we are. Let's do it.
That's right.
So before we get into that, though, we got some news that we need to go over and share with you. And some of it you may have seen online already. If you have, awesome. If not, here we go. This is for you. The first piece of news I want to go ahead and get out of the way is not good news. Let's say it's not news I was hoping to see come across my feed. And this is, of course, concerning the fabulous voice actor, Tom Kane. Many of you know Tom Kane as the voice of Master Yoda from the Clone Wars. He was also the Clone Wars narrator, the one that opened the show, War, or gave the monologue there at the beginning, and to preface the episode. So he, of course, we know a while ago had a stroke. It was last year, the year before he had that stroke, and his daughter Sam posted on social media. This was actually posted 3 days ago. We're recording this on Monday, the 13th of September. So she posted this on the 10th. And she says, because of his stroke, my dad has been, I'm just going to read this verbatim. Because of the stroke, my dad has been forced into an early retirement. The damage to his speech center is just too severe. He cannot read well, nor get out the words he wants, which is sort of required for voice acting. He has what is called apraxia, which means he has difficulty moving smoothly from one sound, syllable, or word to another. Groping movements like with his jaws, lips, or tongue make the correct movement for speech sounds are impaired. Essentially, he knows exactly what he wants to say. He knows exactly what's going on, but the words are trapped inside his head. When they do come out, it's usually too slurred to understand. He has a handful of words he says perfectly, but just a handful leaving him to rely on forms of nonverbal communication. Thank God he's an actor and good at charades, is what she says. She says she has a lot more to say about this, especially she goes, I have so much more to say about this, like how many people miss having conversations with them, especially his children and his wife. She used an expletive I'm not going to use, but essentially she's saying how screwed up it is, that it is a split second, in a split second, one of the most talented voice actors lost his voice forever. She did say, feel free to send him letters. She said they've opened up a new P.O. box that she will be managing. She said, please send your emails or Instagram handle so I can send you pictures of my dad receiving your mail. He also has been practicing his signature and would love to start autographing from home again. So that's the latest update we have on the fabulous Tom Kane. Honestly, that was heartbreaking for me. I had the honor to meet Tom at Star Wars Weekends, and he everybody towers above me, but he just seemed to tower above me even more. He's a tall guy, and just how much fun and this every time I saw the man, he always had a grin on his face ear to ear. And every time he was with fans and around people, he was always laughing and having a good time from what I could see. And to hear this, it really, really gut punched me. I was really saddened. It made for a bad start to my weekend when I read that.
Well, there's a lot of sayings that people say. Some are true, some are false. One of them that's true is never take your health for granted. I don't think Tom Kane did. I would say to people, if you're healthy, you can walk and talk. It's incredible. When my work, I work with men and women whose husbands and wives are being taken by Alzheimer's. They're being taken by Parkinson's disease. I talked with a client today. He is in his mid-50s, so he's just a little bit older than me. And a stroke took his ability to work. And, Tom Kane, Aaron, myself, none of us know if something like that's going to hit us. Some people get hit with a heart attack and they're just done. So, boy, oh boy, when they say, just be so thankful for your health, enjoy it, and be thankful for it. That is huge. And my hope and prayer is that we start to get some answers for these things like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, and how to help reverse the effects of strokes. I would love to see it. I always say this: we shoot lasers in our eyes to fix them, right? I mean, we do. We shoot lasers in our eyes.
Sure do.
Right. And I talked to, oh my gosh, Aaron, all my clients where we haven't figured out cancer. We figured out HIV. You can take a little concoction of stuff and you won't die of that. We'll shoot lasers in our eyes. But when it comes to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and these stroke things, sometimes if we can get people to the hospital quick enough, you can do some procedures that can help. But boy, oh boy, I'd love to see this stuff reversed because, like you said, Tom Kane is just such a neat guy. And just like Aaron said, I mean, people on the podcast who have listened have heard, I happen to be 6'4", and when I was there at Star Wars Weekends, like Aaron, I had a couple times where he walked by me, like he was walking with James Arnold Taylor or Ashley Eckstein. They were going over to the Premiere Theater where Aaron and I try to spend as much time as possible watching James Arnold Taylor's interviews and shows. And Tom Kane would walk by and I'm looking up at him. I mean, he's got to be 6'6", 6'7", and it's just, I mean, he's the size of my teammates in college, seriously. And Tom Kane, it is just right, Aaron. It's hilarious to see him up on stage next to Ashley Eckstein and James Arnold Taylor, and he's doing the voice of Yoda, right? Not right, not James Arnold Taylor, but Tom Kane is. And you look, and I remember sitting in the premiere theater there at Disney's Hollywood Studios and looking around at people, and particularly kids who didn't know that he did Yoda's voice in the Clone Wars. And these kids have watched all the episodes. And I would look around the theater, and they're like looking out going, no way. The person who does Yoda is going to be short. It's like, no, he's 6'7", 6'6". I mean, just a towering man. And so Aaron is not lying when he says that. But anyways, but I wish him all the best. I'm glad his daughter's keeping us up to date. And gosh, I want to hear his voice again, doing all the voices that he does. So all the best to him.
Absolutely. We wish him the best, and we will definitely want to make and keep him in our thoughts, and if you pray, in our prayers, because definitely I know it's a challenge for his family as well. So, but if you are interested in writing Tom Kane and his family notes of encouragement, she did share his P.O. box. This is on a public post, so I'll share it with y'all now. You would send any new fan mail or letters of encouragement to Tom Kane, P.O. Box 23606, Overland Park, Kansas 66283. And of course, this will also be in our show notes on our website. So if you didn't catch it, instead of having to keep rewinding it, you can go straight to our website at StarWarsReactions.com and pull it straight out of the show notes for this episode. All right. All right. So with that aside, the next piece of news was actually quite a surprise for me. I know you're not a big gamer, David. But this one was actually something people had been clamoring for. At Lucasfilm Games, as well as SWR, are partnering up for a remake of the hit video game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
I do know this. I was in grad school, I think, I think this originally came out. I was just having my first child, Eli, in 2003. And, but I've seen the movies or the little videos they've made for these. And like, I want that to be a movie. So I know that. I mean, when I've seen those, I'm like, wait, what? Where's this? Now, you want to talk about animation? Holy mackerel.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be huge. There's no dates on release or anything like that. It's just a new announcement. And they did release a slight teaser talking about that where it just has Darth Revan walking out of smoke and darkness and igniting his red saber. So it's an exciting time. So we'll see as more details come out on that. We will let you know. So the last piece of news we're going to share tonight is about The Mandalorian, which on actually yesterday, the 12th, Sunday, September 12th, walked away with seven, count that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Emmy Award wins. So they took home 7 Emmy trophies. This was from the Creative Arts Emmy ceremony that they won. They took home awards for Outstanding Special Visual Effects in a Season or a Movie, Outstanding Sound Mixing for a Comedy or Drama Series, 1 hour, and they won that for Chapter 13, The Jedi. Outstanding Cinematography for a Single Camera Series, half hour. They won that for Chapter 15, The Believer. Outstanding Music Composition for a Series, Original Dramatic Score for Chapter 16, The Rescue. Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup. They won that for Chapter 13, The Jedi. Then they won for Outstanding Stunt Coordination and Outstanding Stunt Performance. So how about that?
It's incredible.
That is awesome. I love it. So they walked away with 7 Emmy Awards from the Visual Effects Award, the Creative Arts Emmys. So congrats to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and their team there at Lucasfilm on their award wins. I can honestly say this was well deserved.
Yeah. I mean, try to win one of those, let alone 2 or 4, 7. I mean, that's just wow. Incredible stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It is. It's awesome. And we are happy for them. So that's great. But with that does kind of end our news segment there. So we will wrap that up, and we're just going to go ahead and start off our very first vintage reaction. And tonight we're looking at the first episode of season 1 of Ewoks, the cartoon series. This episode was called The Cries of the Trees. This was released September 7th, 1985. So let's see, 85 September. I would have been 5.
Right, and I was
5 and a half.
I was 15. Yeah.
So yeah.
Is that right?
It was see, December, yeah, I was 5 and a half when that was released. Wow, that was a long time ago. This particular episode written by Paul Dini and directed by Raymond Jaffalis. Yeah. I know I'm not saying that right, but it's close enough. Synopsis for this episode was actually pretty good. It was very, very good. It was, while suffering from a drought in the forest, Moon of Endor, the evil witch Morag launches a plan to get even with the Ewoks by setting the forest ablaze. Ooh. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our initial reaction. So, David, what were your first thoughts on when you watched this episode?
Oh,
whenever you watched
it. Right. Well, you'd mentioned it kind of in our opening there that you didn't have access and didn't watch them and stuff like that. And I didn't watch the Droids Ewok Hour starting in the fall of 1985. In fact, just a minute ago, I think I said I was 15. I was 16 at the time. That would have been my junior year of high school. So 85, 86. So yes, 16 turning 17 and then 17 turning 18. Yeah. So in the fall of 85 and the fall of 86 were the 2 seasons of the Droids Ewoks Hour. And I was doing basketball from morning till night in the fall of 85, the fall of 86. As players on our high school team, our coach had asked us we hauled it out early Saturday morning, got to the gym, middle of winter, got to the gym, opened it up, and we would referee and coach the young children in our community. And so those 2 seasons, the fall and winter, I was in a gym every morning with my teammates, and so I never saw them. And just like Aaron said, when they came on Disney Plus, I thought, oh wow, this is the perfect time to watch them. Boom, And so when Aaron came up with ideas for vintage reactions, I thought it was just brilliant, as part of our Star Wars reactions. And so it was fun to watch this. Kind of some initial thoughts. Something that stood out to me was the first writing credit shown at the start of this episode, and it's Paul Dini. And he, of course, later on after this, he goes on and becomes one of the key writers for Batman the Animated Series. And so I thought it was so cool to see his name. I didn't know he was associated with this before he did Batman the Animated Series, one of the most acclaimed animated series of all time. But Ewoks is definitely 80s cartoons. It's silly humor, and it has a moral to learn, and it's just cute and fun. So I'm glad again that Aaron generated some ideas and said, hey, let's do this at least once a month, do some vintage reactions, particularly with the vintage content being put on Disney Plus. So we thought it was a perfect time to start this with little time before Visions comes out here, as well as Book of Boba Fett in December.
Thank you very much. Very good. And I just had a brilliant idea hit me, which I'll mention after we get done recording. But I love it. I think you will too. And I think everybody out there listening will enjoy it as well. But yeah, like we said, I'd never watched this show. I was like 5.5 when it aired. Then I went overseas with my parents who were missionaries. So I never watched any of it. Never had any exposure to it. I had heard of it, but I never watched it. So all these episodes, all these are completely foreign to me. When we sit down to review them, I have just watched them literally for the first time. So this was a lot of fun for me. And I got to tell you, this show had all the feels of the 80s cartoons I did grow up watching, like He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and Mask, and Super Friends, and all those that I used to watch as I was growing up. This fit right in with those. There's a lot of slapstick humor in it. And I love the just in your face, simple morals they were teaching. And it was great. It was a lot. And plus it was Star Wars too, which made it even more fun. This I just popped into my head. It's not even in my show notes, but it really had a feel of being the Star Wars version of Smurfs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I grew up watching Smurfs, and I love Smurfs. In fact, the first bedroom suit I had when they got me out of the crib and I got my own bed and everything, I got pictures of it, me and my Smurfs bed. So this just kind of hit home for me, which surprised me. I figured I would probably be bored and not enjoy it and kind of roll my eyes because of the 80s humor, but I really enjoyed it. So with that, let's get going. Talking points. Let's get in there. Of course, we got a lot of new characters in this episode. We got a lot of original characters in this episode, from original characters from Return of the Jedi, and of course some new characters. Of course, we got a whole list of them. Wicket is in it. Of course, these are ones we saw in the movie too. Tebow, Paplo, Logray, Chief Chirpa, all these Ewoks we saw in Return of the Jedi. Now, of course, they've kind of been somewhat updated for animation. They got kind of different wardrobe, kind of changed their looks a little bit, but it's them. But then we got some new ones like Weechi, Kanisa, Latara, Milani, Antwani, Bonnie, and Deej. So what were your thoughts surrounding the characters and the mix of new, not say necessarily old characters? They're all old characters now, but at the time they would have been old characters from Return of the Jedi with the mix of new characters.
Yeah. It was interesting. Like you said, the ones you recognize are Chief Chirpa, Logray, Peplu, Tebow, and Wicket. Kanisa, the girl there with the pink kind of head covering, who was a friend of Wicket's. She seems pretty sweet. Latara, you see her a little bit in this first episode. Milani is, I believe it's Tebow's younger sister. or is it Peplu's? I think it's Tebow's younger sister. I put in there, and Aaron and I put the show notes together. I was listening. I need to put on closed caption because I don't know if it's Aunt Wani. I heard Wicket say it a couple times. Is it Aunt Bonnie? Aunt Wani? I can't quite get. I probably just need to look for IMDb for the Ewok show and look at all the character names and who did the voices. That was another thing I was going to mention at the very end. The only two persons that they associate the name with the voice is Jim Henshaw with Wicket, and then I'm trying to remember. Oh gosh, I just watched it and blanked. The girl's name who does Knisa or Nisa. I think it's pronounced. I think the K sound. I think it's Nisa. Kind of the two main characters, but they list the other voice actors, but they don't tell you who they are. I wish they did. And again, maybe that's just something I can look up, but again, you can go in to spend a lot of time on this half-hour Ewok show. We'll have fun with it, but I don't know that I'm going to do as much research as I would for Mandalorian or some of the other shows we'll cover. But I thought it was pretty neat. I like seeing Chief Chirpa, Logray, all of them. It's pretty cool. It's a fun little thing, and you got to have more than just Wicket and say, Chief Chirpa and Logray. You got to have some other people. Deej, I believe, is his dad, Wicket's dad, and I do think as Aaron and I get into more episodes, there'll be some more names for more of the Ewoks. But it's a good little mix there of Return of the Jedi and then new ones at the time.
Absolutely, it is a great mix. And you're thinking of Cree Summer.
Oh, Cree Summer, thank you.
Cree Summer, Knisa, Kneessaa, Knisa. I was actually looking for the aunt.
Yeah. Well, she kisses Ewok at the end of this, or Wicket at the
Bozie, Aunt Bozie.
Aunt Bozie. Okay.
Bozzie.
So
Aunt Bozie.
That's
now, so yeah, great. It's a great cast, great mix of characters. They come in now. This episode, we also get another new episode. We have new character in the episode. We get Morag, the evil witch. Mm-hmm. Who has some kind of vendetta against the Ewoks, particularly against Logray. Mm-hmm. She, during the episode, says that her and Logray are old friends, and she just wants to get even with Logray and with the Ewoks. And she is willing to do whatever it seems like to get it done, including burning a forest moon.
Right.
Burning a forest moon in the middle of a drought and blocking the only source of river they have to put the fire out. So what did you think of this character, Morag?
Well, she's a good baddie. And I think, she's typical 80s baddie. You know who the bad guy is. Yeah. And typically you always have one that's kind of more serious and one that's more for humor and comic relief, and that's the Dulocs. And of course we see one of them in this as well, kind of the green, furry kind of looking guys who are just kind of clueless. And like I said, they're just humor. They're just for the physical comedy too. So. But she plays a pretty good baddie here. And a little side note that I was going to mention was, she captures a little wispy, right? Mm-hmm. Which she calls the fire folk. And I believe they're kind of the same beings that we see in the TV movie Caravan of Courage, right? There's a little scene there with the brother and sister that their ship crash lands on Endor. And there's a little scene with this little light characters. So I believe they're the same as in the TV movie Caravan of Courage. Caravan of Courage came before the Battle of Endor. Again, Aaron and I can review those at some time, but whoa, they're rough. But yes, I thought the Wispy was kind of cool.
That is cool. The Wispies were awesome. We got to see the Queen and her people. I can't vouch for anything about Caravan of Courage because I have yet to watch it. So I don't know. It could be, it could not be. I don't know. I'll have to watch it and find out.
Yeah, take a look at it.
I will eventually.
Yeah.
So,
and if any of our listeners know the answer to that, I'd be curious because I'm with you. I had not seen Caravan of Courage or The Battle for Endor until they got put on Disney Plus, which I thought, again, perfect time to do it.
absolutely, it sure is. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back and keep talking about Cries in the tree, the Cries of the Trees. Excuse me. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here, and we are discussing our first vintage reaction to the first episode of the Ewok series, The Cries of the Trees. Of course, one of the big things about 80s animation and 80s cartoons are the morals that every episode taught. Every show had it, some more prominent than others. Super Friends, G.I. Joes. At the end of every G.I. Joe episode, they had some moral that was being taught. The kids starting fire, don't play with fire. Now, the more you know, G.I. Joe, and stuff like that. That was one of the ones I watched. But this is no shortage of that. This has the same moral compass, moral lessons in each episode. And this was great. And I loved this because we see in the story, we have Wicket and the Ewoks and his little Ewok friends get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up in a lie to cover it. Then the truth comes out, so nobody believes them. Then the forest catches fire, and they're trying to tell everybody the forest is on fire, and everybody's like, yeah, no, whatever. It's not on fire, you liar. And then if it wasn't for another Ewok who was like, no, Ewok's telling the truth, or Wicket's telling the truth, I saw it, it's happening, it would be the forest would have burned. And we see that lesson, and almost a boy who cried wolf style moral to it. And I loved that. It was just as plain. It was as black and white as you can get. Lying is not good. So, what are your thoughts on how they told the story and wrapped this moral lesson into it?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. And it's Weechie. Weechie's the one who came in. He seems like a little bit older than Wicket and Tebow and Pat Blue, and he says, he vouches for him. That's Weechie. And, something that, oh gosh, I think you and I have talked about covering some of the novels, even within the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. You and I covered that earlier in the spring after the third novel of that came out. But it's not just there, but across Star Wars. And I think in other IPs as well, Aaron, what you and I have seen and our listeners have seen is what we call moral ambiguity. What's right, what's wrong. And, I've worked with, like I've said it, I've worked with thousands of young kids. And when you see them coming up, they're trying to figure out the world. And it's hard enough when you're being told consistently from parents and your teachers who care about you, hey, here's what's right, here's what's wrong. It's hard enough then. You still feel this temptation to do the wrong things. But in today's age, the moral ambiguity makes it even more difficult. I remember those morals, coming up at that time. I'm obviously older than you, but you and I have learned these. And, And I just, they're not a bad thing to learn some good morals. Like you said, whether it's the end of G.I. Joe, here with each of these episodes of the Ewok animated series. And you got me thinking, Aaron, that we really see a moral statement, or what do we say? A learning point at the beginning of each episode of the Clone Wars, right? You and I always call them the fortune cookies. And so there's really kind of a compact version. And I love that they put those at the beginning, in blue. And if you get Jason Fry's book, The Clone Wars Episode Guide, which needs to be updated by DK, please. I'm still on my soapbox for that. And Jason Fry knows that.
Do one for Rebels while you're at it.
That's nice. Very quick. Care best. So, I always loved it. You can go to the book and he lists each of those fortune cookies, each of those moral statements or insightful points. So it's kind of neat to see the Clone Wars continue something that we see in the Ewoks animated series. But I really do like the morals in the simple morals that, just like you put in the show notes, the simple morals in these episodes.
Exactly, because they're not complicated. They're just simple truths
Right.
to live by. And I love that. Perfect. Love it. Absolutely do. All right. So the one last thing I want to address, and since this is the first time we are doing a vintage reaction, I figured this would be something cool to address in this episode. And that is, of course, looking at Ewoks and its animation and storytelling compared to today's Lucasfilm animation, to Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch. What are your thoughts on how far we've come in Star Wars storytelling when it comes to animation over the years?
Oh gosh, night and day. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just watching this first episode and looking at how they have to do the animation, they have to cut a lot of corners when they do this. I mean, I enjoy it. Like you mentioned, I grew up on Super Friends, and I would watch that before Ewoks even came on TV. But it's so different. Even as you and I've talked about in covering last season, season 7 of Clone Wars, the difference in animation from 2008 when the Clone Wars started to now is just light years. Even when we had Jason Fry on for the series premiere, season 1 of the Bad Batch, and of course we had him on the bookend, and he was on the last for coverage of the last episode of season 1. He really talked about the animation of water, the animation of the trees and the lighting, and he just was like, I can't believe how far they've come. And that's from 2008 till now. So when you look at 1985 animation and you look at the Bad Batch or the Clone Wars last year when season 7, it's as far as the East is from the West. It's just staggering, right? It's staggering. I mean, I'm not criticizing you. I love it. It's old school animation. I love it. But just it's so so far apart. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, a lot of too has to do with the technology that's changed. Whereas we had all computer animated and generated shows, like Rebels and Bad Batch, and where there's a lot of that computer animation and lighting and coloring going on. We have Ewoks and Droids that are all still hand drawn, hand painted, and very detailed in those regards as well. So it is a world of difference just to take it in and just see how far and how advanced things have gotten when it comes to this.
Oh yeah.
So Right. So, of course, with that, we're going to wrap up our review and just go on into our final thoughts, because we still got some great stuff to talk about in our final thoughts. And of course, we got David's got us a psychology corner. And of course, we got an all new Star Wars dad joke of the week.
Oh my God.
So we got a lot of fun still to come. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. David, what are your final thoughts on Cries of the Trees?
Oh my gosh, this was just a fun episode to start the Ewoks animated show. I like Jim Henshaw as Wicket. Morag, I mentioned, is the first baddie, and then the Dulocs are, the usual Saturday morning fare in the 80s. Not too scary, but, the kids know they're the baddies. Look, this is not Shakespeare, so, I'm not going to be critical of it in that. It's fun. It has a moral for your children. I'll take it, especially since it's Star Wars, just like Aaron mentioned in his opening remarks. It's Star Wars content. There you go. Just a little side note, I would say this. I would recommend listening to the April 8th, 2021 Skywalking Through Neverland podcast. That's episode 325. Aaron and I, get a kick out of Rich and Sarah Woloski. They're just really fun, energetic, huge Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fans. And they interviewed Jim Henshaw back in April. So just as Ewoks was debuting on Disney Plus, and it was really neat to hear him interviewed. They have a really good discussion with him about the Ewoks animated show, and it's fun to hear some of his stories about, getting the job and doing that work up in Canada, because that's where Nelvana was based, I think in Toronto, when Lucas hired them to do Ewoks and Droids. So just a little side note, I would encourage you. It's a fun listen. And so again, fun start to this. I look forward to covering more these episodes with Aaron, and we'll eventually get to some Droids episodes as well. So just a fun start, a good start.
Absolutely. Definitely is. For me, my final thoughts of overall, this was just a lot of fun. If I had watched this during the 80s when I was growing up, I would have been pestering my parents, give me the Ewoks toys, give me the Ewoks toys. And it was just a lot of fun. It brought me back to being a kid again. And that's what I loved about watching this episode. I love seeing the Ewoks and their village in a little bit more detail, getting a little bit more of their social construct and stuff. And I look forward to getting more of that as the series goes on. The individual Ewoks themselves, the new characters that they brought in are just, excuse me, are interesting. I can't wait to learn more about them. And I will say this, though. Based on my knowledge of Wicket from Return of the Jedi, this was not the Wicket I was expecting, but it was an interesting Wicket, and it was a fun Wicket. So I want to see how he progresses. And I do have one question, though. Do you know whether this is supposed to take place before or after Return of the Jedi?
That I don't know.
I'll have to do some research to see if I can find that out, because that's kind of got me curious if we're seeing a younger Wicket, or if this is a post Return of the Jedi Wicket. Yeah, because some of his mannerisms and reactions and comments give you the thoughts that he's a young Wicket, young Wicket, almost like a child. Questioning some of those things, which is what a lot of shows in the 80s did. They always had that childlike character that was there and made it easy for the kids to relate to. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'll have to look that up. And if you know out there in Listen Land, let us know. We would love to find out, and we will definitely give you credit if you let us know. But we definitely are going to find out one way or another whether or not this was supposed to be set before or after. So, but let us know what you thought, if you have watched it, of what you think of the Ewok show, as particularly the first episode, the Cries of the Trees. You can let us know online on any of our social medias. Facebook, Star Wars Reactions. Instagram, Star Wars Reactions. No, wait. Sorry, I messed all those up. Back that up. Beep, beep, meow. Facebook and Instagram are the same now. SW Reactions. I apologize. Facebook or Instagram at SW Reactions, or on Twitter at SW Reactions Pod. Or you can email us show at starwarsreactions.com. David, take us home with that psychology corner, my friend.
Definitely. I thought last week, I thought I would follow up on that topic. I did a defense mechanism called identification with aggressor. It's in the list of defense mechanisms that Dr. Sigmund Freud talked about in his work back in the early 1900s. I thought, you know what? I wanted to do another one. It was just in my mind. I wanted to keep on this subject. And so this week I thought, just again, to increase our listeners' knowledge base, I was going to talk about projection. Now, this is the perfect name for this defense mechanism. And let me explain why. Most of us have either, experienced someone doing this, right? Projection, or we've seen others do this to other people. And what this is when you see someone pointing out some flaws or unflattering behaviors or something they don't like in another person, but yet they do those things themselves. They have those flaws, those unflattering behaviors, those aspects of themselves that they don't like in the other person. The way that I summarize this, Aaron, very quickly, is that this defense mechanism is basically, quote, there's something about you that I don't really like about me, end quote. And so, again, we project onto others what we don't like about ourselves. So I think what happened is Freud had thought about that concept of projection. And projecting things onto someone else. So last week it was identification with aggressor, right? If you can't beat them, join them, bullies, right? We were talking about that in relationship to Crosshair towards the end of the Bad Batch season 1. But I wanted to kind of keep going with these, and I'll do another one either next week or the week after that. It all depends on what we want to do with next week's episode. So there you go. Last week, identification with aggressor. This week, projection.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if somebody wants to ask you questions about your psychology corner or talk to you about Star Wars in general, how would they go about doing that, David?
Absolutely, brother. There's Twitter. It's at David_Modders. My handle is Jedi Psych. So I thought, there you go. Jedi and psychology, Jedi psychologist. They need to put me in the higher public. Look, they got to write me in. Daniel Jose Older, write me in. All right. Or Charles Soule or Claudia Gray or somebody. So that's Twitter. Email is david@starwarsreactions.com. And then there's Instagram, which is just simply look up David Modders.
Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me or criticize me on my upcoming Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week, you can always hit me up on Twitter at TA Harris 121079, or of course, email me Aaron at starwarsreactions.com. Would love to hear from you and get your feedback. So, David, are you ready?
Oh,
do you think you're ready for this week's Dad Joke of the Week?
I'm never ready for these groaners, but I'll try.
All right, here we go. This is it. This week's Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week is, why do episodes 1, 2, and 3 come after episodes 4, 5, and 6?
I don't know, Aaron. Why do episodes 1, 2, and 3 come after episodes 4, 5, and 6?
In charge of directing, Yoda was.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't help it. I had to do that in honor of Tom Kane. I had to pick a Yoda one in honor of Tom Kane since we talked about him at the top of the show. It just felt right.
Once again, I did not know the answer to it. I'd never heard that one before, and so these are proven pretty fun. Horrible but fun.
In charge of directing, I was. Made it interesting, I did. All right. So, with that, David, this has been a blast, my friend.
Absolutely, buddy.
Absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for listening in this week. We appreciate each and every one of you. We wish y'all the best, pray for y'all, and hope everything in life is going great for you. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.